My microphone is on my hat. Why? Because I want to be different, okay? I don't want to blend in. If I were to take a little stethoscope, what the hell even is a stethoscope? Okay, scratch that. If I were to use my bare eyeballs to just take a harmless little peep into your ear canal, what would I find? Maybe some items? Maybe all this time you've been using your little cranium as a storage area. I personally keep my shoes up there, and my laptop. Brain points is also what you'd find right next to the laptop. It was about 3 years ago that I first got into the kind of entrepreneurial business space online. I first wanted to start dropshipping with my buddy. We were really into it. It was like super exciting. I had that kind of fire and obsession that should have, now emphasis on the should have, made me a successful man. It should have made, this kind of like obsession should have made me successful. During the same period of my life, I had a part-time job in a retail store called Primark. It was only an 8-hour contract, so genuinely 2 4-hour shifts a week minimum. But I also had college 3 days a week, which each of those days it would usually take up the entirety of the day. We had a big friend group. There was this girl that I really liked. We would just basically spend hours together after the actual college hours had finished. We just like go into town as a big group and just like hang out together. It was obviously a great investment of my time and energy. I wouldn't go back and change that now. But even with the 3 fully occupied college days, that left me not only the 2 days where I was not occupied, you know, I wasn't really doing anything, I didn't really have any plans, but also the 2 other days of the week where I had my shifts at Primark, because they were 4-hour shifts each, right? That's 4 hours of the day. A 4-hour shift is not going to take up too much of my day, so much so that I can't put any other time into, you know, building my business. I'd also sometimes have a 2 to 3 hour slot for gym. Either I didn't really go to the gym on the college days. I would usually only go on the days I was doing nothing, or the days that I was like, I had the shifts at Primark. But once again, doesn't take up the entire day. I've still got plenty of time. So with these 4 extra days of the week, obviously, like I said, excluding the 3 days of college, because that actually took up the entire day, surely I had plenty of time to get this business off the ground and actually, you know, start seeing some results with it. Yes, I did. Did I get anything done? No. Literally for months, not a single significant change or piece of action was taken. Nothing significant was done, mostly because I just didn't have the discipline. Like, I'll be as authentic as possible. I wasn't a very disciplined man back then. I coped a lot, and I was just a lazy person. Let's say I did try and work on my business for, you know, one of the 4 days of the week that I didn't have college. If in one of those days I had my shift at Primark as well as a gym session, or I just had one or the other, I would have procrastinated doing my business work until after the shift. Bearing in mind, the shifts that I had at Primark, they weren't early. Like, they weren't like 6 a.m. start, like an 8 a.m. start. I'm pretty sure the shifts that I had at Primark, one of them was 12, so it was midday to maybe like 4 p.m. And the other one was probably, I'm pretty sure the other one was 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. or like something along those lines. So I would have procrastinated doing any business work until after my shift and after I've been to the gym. So I would have sat down and worked on my business later in the day. Let's say I even decided to do some business work on a college day. I would have still woken up about 4 hours before college started and spent about fucking 2.5, 3 hours on my morning routine. And once again, I would only have gotten the work done later in the day. So it would have been, I would have done the entire day of college, and then I would have come home early, early from, you know, hanging out with my buddies, and then I would have done the work later in the day. There were actually a handful of times where this happened. I know, it's insane. I was incredibly like undisciplined. There were a few times where I got my arse into gear, and the times that I did actually do some significant work, like I said, it was at the end of the day. My motivation to work was non-existent. My energy to work was extremely low, and because of this, the quality of work that I ended up producing was practically insignificant. Like, it wasn't even there. It was very poor. Once again, I just wasn't disciplined, so obviously, regardless of if you're tired, like, that's going to play a very crucial role. But what I think is also important for kind of ensuring that you've got the most possible motivation, the most possible energy to put into some meaningful work, is the very basic understanding that we have most of our energy at the beginning of the day. You're always going to have more brain points in the morning, and then the more tasks that you do, like even just living, like going to college or something, it's slowly going to deplete your energy. You're going to lose energy naturally throughout the day. Obviously, there are other circumstances to consider. If you've had like caffeine, that's going to affect, you know, the natural cycle. How much sleep you've gotten, when you last ate, what you ate when you last ate. All of these things are going to also affect your energy. But this is where I like the idea of treating your energy like a point system. If you imagine that you start every single day with a specific number of energy points, it will vary, like I said, like the amount of sleep that you get, whatever. But let's say, for the sake of the example, let's keep things a little bit easy and not get too deep. Let's just say like you have 100 points. Maybe working on your business and actually producing like some high quality work costs, let's say 50. Maybe then a gym session would cost another 30. So far, if you can do maths, I can't. I had to use a calculator. Stop laughing at me. That's 80 in total. But what's also crucial to consider is doom scrolling for hours, spending hours playing video games, jacking off as soon as you wake, you know, gooning. Maybe that's the better word to use. I actually don't like that word. It's disgusting. Gooning first thing in the morning. These are all extremely bad habits. They're going to cost you a lot of brain points. Probably a lot more than you think they might. I think we've all experienced doom scrolling for hours and feeling tired. Like, we feel fatigued when we've literally just looked at our phone, you know, been beamed with easy, cheap dopamine, and we've just done this singular motion, and somehow we're tired. These bad habits might cost you anywhere from 10 to 70 points. It could even be 100, who knows. It all depends obviously on how much time you spend being distracted by them, how many times you kind of switch your focus from reels to something else and then back to reels. It's impossible to say really, but we'll slap a lot sign onto it. But by our example, let's say, like I said, 100 points a day, 50 to produce the high quality work, another 30 for the gym session. And these are things that you want to do, by the way. Like, you want to actually build your dream physique, you want to build your business. If that's the case and you're extremely susceptible to randomly scrolling throughout the day, you know, getting a notification, clicking on it, and now that's occupied another 30 minutes of your time and energy. Gooning, playing video games, all of these like really energy consuming habits, you're likely going to be extremely fatigued before you even get the necessary work done, before you even get the gym session done. Maybe you still go to the gym and the gym session is just absolute dog. It's all going to be wasted on the 2 hours that you spent on the 2 hours that you spent making bread, on the 2 hours that you spent bread. So I think I've just developed a disease. On the 2 hours that you have spent bed rotting. There we go. Scrolling reels, like as soon as you wake up, jacking off as soon as you wake up. All of your brain points have gone to that, or most of your brain points have sort of gone to that. When I would work on my business later in the day, after college, after a full day of college, after I had completed my 4-hour shift at Primark, which was like in the afternoon, so in the morning I was probably scrolling. Dude, of course my motivation was low. Of course my energy was like fucking non-existent. And of course the quality of work that I ended up producing was fucking pointless. My brain points for the day were already used up from college, already used up from the shift, already used up from probably doom scrolling. Of course, if I was serious about my goals and if I was a more disciplined man, I would have powered through, right? Even if I didn't have the energy, I would have had a coffee, there are things that I could have done. Mainly just disciplining myself. Even if I don't feel like doing the work and I'm not really motivated, I still sit down and I still just get it done. But the obvious solution to making this more easier for me was to incorporate the eat the frog habit. Eat the frog is basically just an analogy title. It basically just means like you have a nice meal, but you also have to eat a frog. You would eat the frog first so that you can enjoy the rest of the night, the nice meal, and you don't have to think about having to eat the frog because you've already done it. In other words, you complete your hardest and your most tedious work at the very beginning of the day so that you don't have to think about it later on. Ow, I just hurt my finger. If I had gotten myself into the habit of eating the frog, my motivation would have been much higher, my energy would have been much higher, and the overall work that I ended up producing, like the quality of it, would have been so much higher. Because ultimately, you don't know how many brain points you have when you first wake up. It's not like a meter that we have, right? You also don't really know how much brain points a task is going to cost in order to, you know, sort of produce high quality work within it. So the most simple solution is to just get into the habit of doing what you probably know that you've needed to do for a while now, which is waking up and just doing the most important thing first, because you don't know if you're gonna have enough brain points for it later in the day. That's of course if you want it to be like easier, you want like the motivation to come easier, because motivation's nice, motivation's cool. People say, like, not many people, but some people say like, oh, discipline is so much better than motivation. Yeah, discipline is more reliable than motivation, but you'd be fucking lying if you said that you prefer discomfort over like genuine like obsession and a motive, like motivation to complete difficult work. The motivation feels incredible. So the simple solution is to do what you probably know you've needed to do for a while now, which is 1, block out any distractions, all of the like really bad energy sapping habits, and get into the habit of eating the frog every single day. Most of your bad habits come from your phone. That's where you're spending most of your time doom scrolling or gooning, which I still fucking hate that word. So you probably know what I'm about to say, right? And I just want you to try and be as susceptible to it as you possibly can. I like to keep my phone nowhere near me when I first wake up in the morning. In fact, it's usually switched fully off. I have a digital alarm. I will grab it. Digital alarm right here. I don't know why the numbers aren't showing. So basically I don't have to rely on my phone to wake me up. Think about it. If you keep your phone next to you when you sleep, or even if you keep it on the other side of the room and you rely on it to wake you up, like that's where you have your alarm. You're gonna switch off the alarm, and if you don't just go straight back to sleep, you're gonna subconsciously open Instagram, open TikTok, end up scrolling. You're going to put yourself into a trance as soon as you wake up. Most of the time, you're not even fully conscious, nor do you have a ton of discipline to stop yourself, to control yourself. So if you're serious about deleting that very energy sapping distraction at the beginning of the day, I would recommend investing in a little digital alarm, maybe from the old Jeff Bezos land, which is Amazon. And also you can keep your phone switched off. I keep my phone switched off until my frog tasks are done. So until the hardest work is completed, then I'll switch my phone on. Then I'll answer people's texts. Some people will avoid turning their phone off completely because they'll kind of convince themselves that there's some danger or something in doing so. I couldn't possibly tell you that that's like not true. You might have someone that you care for. You might like not live with your mum and, you know, she messages you in the morning to, like, I don't know, like, maybe you need to look after someone, maybe you need to keep an eye on something. But for most of you, I want you to just really think about it. Like, if you've got a girlfriend, for example, I know when I had a girlfriend, I resisted from doing this because I thought, you know, like, what if she needs me? What if I'm like technically ignoring her or whatever? Dude, it's not that bad. Okay, like if you keep your also if you have good people in your life, you can just explain to them. You can just say to them, listen, I've got this thing that I'm working on, and I'm gonna decide to do it basically first thing in the morning. And so in order to stop distracting myself, I'm just going to keep my phone off for the first part of the day. You know, I'll switch it back on at like 11, 12, midday, like lunchtime. And if you've got good people in your life, they should be like, oh, okay, you know, okay, that's fine. Like, as long as you message me by 1 to let me know that you're still alive. You know, maybe you might get a bit of shit from your girl, but that's kind of what they're like. That's kind of what girls are like. But my point is, for most of you, it's not going to be as harmless as you might be convincing yourself that it's going to be. I also keep my PS5. Right now, it's I'll be honest with you, it's not where I usually keep it. But usually I just keep it in a rucksack, and it will literally be at the very back of my cupboard over there. Like I said, right now it's not blame Simpsons coming to Fortnite. Okay, that was a bit of a cheeky collab that they did there, and I'm invested. But I'm definitely disciplined enough now to, like, even though I've had it out, I don't go on it unless all of the work that I need to do for the day is done, unless I've done my gym session. I've optimized my mornings for my brain points to go only into the work that's going to matter most. I even spend about 5 minutes every single night before I go to sleep, basically just planning out the individual tasks that I have to do the next morning. And what this does is it saves me from, you know, getting out of bed. I know I need to work, I know I need to eat the frog, but I'm having to go back into my own brain and kind of remember exactly what the frog tasks were. So if I've got them written down, and also my laptop you know, stays on my desk, the Notion page with my tasks as well is like already open. So basically when I sit down to work first thing in the morning, my tasks are there. I know what I'm doing, so I can just crack the fuck on. All of those habits and those changes that I've made have optimized my mornings for basically success, because success requires very consistent work. And not only consistent work, but higher quality work, because the highest quality work that you produce, the better success you're going to get, or at least the quicker you're going to get to your goal. If you're serious about your goals, you won't cope, you'll do the same. One final tip: if you aren't using your cranium as a storage compartment, you're going to be absolutely crushed by the men who are. That's the real difference between you, who by the way is a beta, and me, who by the way is, I'm not even an alpha, I'm beyond that, whatever the fuck that even is I use my head for storage. I keep all my things up there, and they're all nice and tiny and comfy and cozy, and they never fall out because my ears aren't big enough. Like, subscribe, maybe even leave a cheeky comment. Maybe I'll giggle at your comment, which would be nice. Send this video to your nan, and get maybe as well, so yeah. Goodbye.